Dharmabytes is brought to you by Free Buddhist Audio, the Dharma for your life. Our work is funded entirely by donations from our generous listeners. If you would like to help us keep this free, make a contribution at freebuddhistaudio.com/donate. Thank you, and happy listening.
Series on Shantideva, our current hero of the Dharma, and I'm going to be just taking us into some of his reflections on compassion, on metta, really. But I'm just going to start with a little bit of thinking, a little bit of introduction to, well, how to engage with these teachings from Shantideva, because some of them are very strong, really, very challenging. So I was just thinking back to the introductory course we do, which many of you have been on, and how we just introduce these ideas, which I think most of us find quite easy to get on with. But real satisfaction comes from the inside, not from kind of how we arrange the outside world. And that actually all our attempts to control that are usually disappointing. In fact, this being human business is a difficult thing to do. It's not comfortable. But everything's changing, everything's impermanent, everything's dependent on certain conditions, and when that changes, things change. And that we change, and that means we can grow and change, move towards awakening. And that we're interconnected. We affect each other much more than we think we do. We're not separate from each other. In a way, you can find these teachings, these ideas, woven into most Buddhist teachings. So our problem really is that our mind, our consciousness isn't configured like that. We sort of don't really experience the world in that way most of the time. We interpret it differently than that. And so that's why we practice. That's why we practice, to reconfigure our minds. That's why we follow precepts. That's why we meditate, to train our mind differently. That's why we learn the Buddhist teachings and really look more deeply into our experience to see if they're not a more true description of how things are. And we all have glimpses. We all have intuitions even of what is more connected, more open, more beautiful, more satisfying, more sort of expansive than the way we normally operate. And I think those are all much of the same sort of flavour. We might describe them differently. We might say, oh, it was really connected, or it was really spacious, but I think they're all of the same sort of ilk. But I think the way we talk to ourselves about those differs. This is something I've been reflecting on loads lately, because we've got different kind of ways of, it's in a way we're looking for something different, so we kind of see it a bit differently or experience it a bit differently. So for me, my most sort of deep and meaningful experiences are all about love. That's what I'm looking for, and that's how I experience my most deep, profound, beautiful moments. And they're about faith. They're about glimpsing that awakening is possible, and it's possible for me, and that is desirable. That's something I want. But other people talk about it in very different ways. Other people talk about awareness. Badra always talks about awareness. I talk about love. He's always talking about awareness. They've got different kind of vocabulary for it. Jyoti would probably be talking about no self. Other people would talk. Dharmavyds would probably talk about meeting a particular Buddha, and just really coming into connection with a Buddha. So there's sort of different ways of describing these experiences. And there's loads of those ways in the Buddhist tradition. I think that's why there are so many teachers with so many different teachings, because people have sort of described it in their own way. So for Shantideva, who expounded these verses that make up this book, the Bodhicharya Avatara, it's all about the bodhicitta. That's what everything's about, really, for him. This book's like a praise to the bodhicitta in parts. So bodhicitta, it's got these two parts. Bodhi means awakening or enlightenment, and chitta means heart-mind. So you can say bodhicitta is enlightenment mind or awakening heart, or is often translated in our puja, it's translated as the will to enlightenment, which I like because it's got that desire, that movement. It's more active somehow. So the bodhicitta is often described as very active, as like a force, as processes sort of active in the universe. It's something that's not a thing. Some processes that are beyond our usual small, tight way of operating, the way we kind of cling to this idea of ourselves as something limited. Like processes in motion that can seem as if there's a force through the universe that is beyond us, sort of suprapersonal force working through things. And it can't be appropriated into us as we are, into the small, limited self. We can't own it, but we can experience something of it in those glimpses of beauty, those glimpses of love or awareness or whatever it is that it seems like to you. There's this lovely metaphor for the bodhicitta, which says the bodhicitta is like the moon, so we can't kind of capture the moon, but it's as though we're all pools of water. So whether you're an ocean or a lake or a little puddle, you can reflect the moon. You get that sense of the light sort of touching you.
We hope you enjoyed today's Dharmabyte. Please help us keep this free. Make a contribution at freebuddhistaudio.com/donate. And thank you.